We have serious breaking news for you right now. Former FBI Director James Comey agreeing to testify in open session at the Senate Intel Committee. Here to discuss with us, we're going to bring back Gina Loudon and Kirsten Hagelin. But first, let me just read you some of the press release. Senator Richard Burr, chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and Senator Mark Warner, vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, today announced that former Federal Bureau of Investigation Director James Comey has committed to testifying in open session before the committee. The committee was scheduled to open hearing after Memorial Day. Major news. Kirsten, what do you make of it?
I mean, it's obvious that Jim Comey wants to get out there and tell his own story, right? There's been so much talk from friends, people that claim to have been in the room with him, that know him, that have access to his notes. He wants to get out there and share his own story. And I think it's obviously very beneficial for our Congress to have that as well, because they're out there trying to get their, opinion on this, and they want to be seen as credible to their constituents as well. So I think it's good, and transparency is good for all.
Gina, it feels like over the last 3 days, James Comey has been setting this up for himself. In other words, getting his narrative out there through leaks and preparing, I guess, what will be an offensive here. I don't think he's going to go there and just sort of sit there and take questions. I believe he's going to go on the attack. I think he's going to build the case and try to indict President Trump in front of the world. What are your thoughts?
But how is he going to contradict what he said on May 3rd under oath, Charles, that no one has tried to impede his investigation? He said it under oath, Charles. So how's he going to contradict that? And I think, you look at some of the sort of desperate leaks coming out about hiding in the curtains and rejecting a hug from the president. It shows a lot, I think, that perhaps Comey has had a vendetta against Trump in the first place. Trump is good at reading these things. Perhaps Trump read him like a book and should have fired him. And
I'm going to bring in Jessie Jane Duff. And to that point, the same source that said that Comey sort of recoiled in disgust from having to shake and sort of hug Donald Trump in public, also said he had a deep personal admiration and relationship with President Obama. So, those sort of distinctions, I know we all like who we like, but for the person in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Jessie Jane, that seems pretty odd to me.
Well, he's had a relationship with the Clintons for years. I mean, we go back and look at the records. It shows in 1996 that he had worked with Bill Clinton. And he also is the one that sent Martha Stewart to prison. So, I mean, this guy really has enjoyed being on the forefront and being attractive to the Clintons. And I agree with you, Charles, 100%. And also Donald Trump, that he likes to showboat. He's going to go out there and he's going to proclaim his innocence, that he was just the best thing since sliced bread. I don't trust this, and I do think that the Democrats have an agenda from the moment this has started.
So here's the thing, Kirsten. We've got several investigations, right? I mean, no less than 5. Democrats today calling for yet another one, and then Comey going out there and testifying. Maybe the good news is that this will come to a swifter conclusion rather than being drawn out, because that's one of the fears people had with the assignment of a special counselor.
Right. That usually does take a longer time. What I think that the Trump administration really needs to do now is stop playing the victim, but rather get out ahead of all of this insofar as messaging. And he did do a good job of that at the press conference with the Colombian president, where every time that he was asked about these investigations, he turned it toward his agenda.
First, though, he gave sharp answers, right? No,
and
I wasn't involved.
And for someone who is not a practiced politician, he did exactly what a politician does. They need to continue on that. And, if they say they have nothing to hide, they're all good and clear, then all of this should just validate that.
I want to bring in Herb London. Herb, this is major news. Comey to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Your thoughts on that, and also your thoughts on Mueller, day 2 of the Mueller announcement, because initially it was sort of kumbaya. Yeah, this is a guy who both sides like. But some things are beginning to come out that suggest that maybe he won't be as impartial as initially thought.
Well, the difficulty that I have with the special prosecutor, including the kind of special counsel.
By the way, it's a special counsel, special prosecutor. Two different things, right?
Special counsel, that's correct. And special counsel is the correct terminology. But the problem that I have is that very often they run amok. That is, they become rogue figures, largely because they want to get a notch in their belt. And so when you engage in testimony, and my friend Scooter Libby fell into this category, it was known from the outset that Valerie Plane's identity was known by many different people. Scooter was asked a question, however, about where were you on the night of September 20th? He gives an answer. They say, you know something, we have records that indicate that was not true. As a result, he became culpable, even though it had nothing to do with the case.
Right.
He lost his license. His reputation was destroyed. I mean, one of the difficulties you have with the special counsel is precisely that. You're not entirely sure where this investigation will lead.
On the other side of that, though, Gina, some are saying perhaps the special counsel will start to go down rabbit holes that may bring into light some of the things that happened during President Obama's term. Perhaps some of the things involving the Clintons, including the Clinton Foundation. So maybe if this thing goes down certain paths, maybe it's not Republicans who should be worried. Maybe it's Democrats.
I think you're absolutely right on that. I think that that is exactly how it will probably go. And don't forget exposing some of these leakers as well. But here's if the leakers even exist to the degree that the mainstream media wants to try to convince us they do, which you have to question as well. But here's the thing. Let's not forget, on March 29th, Newsweek reported that, that Comey had said that a leaker told them that the Obama administration had told him not to follow up on an investigation. So if we're going to look at, you start to go down these rabbit trails, like you said, and if we're worried about obstructing justice, those kinds of things are going to come out and might implicate the Obama administration or the Clintons.
Quick update on the breaking news we just told you about. Former FBI Director Comey agreeing to testify in open session at the Senate Intelligence Committee. This blockbuster coming down as President Trump kicks off a five-country, city/9-day trip, which begins with Saudi Arabia. Again, there the goal, multiple goals, but one, uniting the Muslim world against terror and also setting up economic reciprocity, if you will. Also, there's a proposal of an Arab NATO with Saudi Arabia sort of leading the way there. I want to bring back Herb London and Jessie Jane Duff. And before we talk about the trip, guys, I do want to ask, and I find it curious that on more than one occasion, Comey said he was never intimidated, that he wasn't pushed around, and somehow this mysterious memo is filed somewhere. Who knows? Maybe it went through a chain of command, and we'll find that out. But I'm hearing he had a legal obligation if he really felt that there was some form of intimidation to tell a superior. And number two, how come he never said anything in public about it?
Well, he didn't say anything beforehand, which makes you a bit suspicious about this memo and what was in the nature of this memo. Plus the fact it was time after time when Comey said, something, I am dealing with a completely dispassionate kind of analysis. I find myself somewhat, questioning the veracity of this.
Jessie Jane, and again, I want to switch to the trip, but do you think it's right that he's going to have this open forum to more or less try to take down President Trump? Because we know it's going to be Comey versus Trump, and it's going to be the biggest pay-per-view event, well, the free event in the world that we've probably seen.
Well, the fact is also Republicans are going to be able to ask him questions, too. So he's going to be put on the spot by Trump allies. They're going to call him out and say, so why didn't you disclose this information when you had your hearing not even a few weeks ago? Where was this disturbance that you felt then? And where are your other memos, by the way, such as when you met with Loretta Lynch, when Loretta Lynch met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac? In fact, how many other memos do you have? Let's see them all. And it will open up a can of worms. So I assure you, this is not going to just go in Comey's favor. There are going to be a few punches that come from the Donald Trump side.
Yeah, we may also find out why he tried to blend in with the drapes, too. But that being said, the big news this weekend is this trip going into next week. And Herb, the thing that caught my eye, and I thought about you immediately, is the idea of a NATO Arab NATO.
I've been working on this for years, Charles. In fact, I had submitted a proposal to the government through the London Center, and so it's come to pass. But it's not an Arab NATO. It's a Sunni NATO. I mean, you're talking about Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Jordan. It is the Sunni nations, because this serves as a counterweight to the ambitions of the Shia. What is really going on here is that you had this tilt during the Obama years in which the nuclear deal was signed with Iran. It made the Sunni nations very nervous. What Trump is doing is he's restoring confidence in our former allies, saying to them, you know what, we've got your back, and if you're worried about Iran, as you should be, we can certainly counter that by creating our own defense condominium.
Jessie Jane, some would worry, though, because the current system, the current NATO with our European allies, see where they're not paying their fair share. They don't necessarily always pull their own weight when it comes to actual combat. Here we are in the most dangerous part of the world, perhaps committing ourselves treasures, lives and money. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with this NATO, the Sunni NATO, as Herb has indicated, because the reality of this is that he's going to the belly of the beast. He's going to go into Saudi Arabia and he's going to call them out for the very thing that they have funded and supported. You know, the Saudis have been some of the largest supporters of Salafist jihadism, which is the root of ISIS, which is the root of Al-Qaeda, Taliban.
We got to leave it there. We got to leave it there. Again, the big breaking news is Comey agrees to testify in open session. Now, Lou's going to take it from here.